This is the Clutch Picks Betting Podcast presented to you by ClutchPoints. Like, follow, and subscribe, rate us, review us, all that other fun stuff. My name is Sheldon Alexander, and we're going to be breaking down some NFL bets for the offseason. Yes, a few special episodes we got cooking up for you, so hopefully you stayed tuned to the feed. You've been liking and subscribing, and you're all over us because we got you covered this offseason. We're going to take a look at some futures in the NFL. We got some AFC/NFC bets, some Super Bowl bets, of course, and of course. We look ahead at some awards, and we'll also look ahead to the NFL draft. We got you covered. Make sure you stay tuned to the Clutch Picks Betting Podcast because we got all of that for you and more coming up over the next few weeks. So make sure you stay tuned to this, what we call the Clutch Picks Betting Podcast. All right, so we're going to get things underway by talking about the upcoming NFL draft. And boy, do we got you covered with some fun here for the NFL draft, which is always a great time of the year in the NFL offseason because every team has hope. We're one pick away, maybe two picks away from turning around the fortunes of our team. And so you look forward to what your team might be able to add. So we're going to take some time here. We're going to do a little deep dive into the number one pick, talk a bit about some of the prospects that you might be familiar with at the top of the draft, and hey, give you some picks into where some value might be added here if you're looking to make some bets on the NFL draft. So let's start here. We'll go through the odds of the people at the top of the draft board here. And we'll also use this time to kind of break down some of the odds, listen to what some of the draft boards are saying about some of these top picks. And then we'll take it from there. At the end, we want to come out with who we think might be of some value. So let's start here. Okay. We'll go through who we think some of the top picks are. And number one pick, here are the numbers, odds provided by DraftKings here. NFL draft pick, number one pick, Cam Ward is the favorite right now at minus 250. Then we got Abdul Carter at plus 190 again. Abdul Carter at plus 190. Then we got Travis Hunter at plus 750 and Shadeur Sanders at plus 1200. And this is an interesting one because, of course, this is where we're gonna make the reminder here that betting and seeing odds is more about trying to get people to bet more so than predicting the future. What I mean by that is Shadeur Sanders at plus 1200 to be the number one pick seems pretty interesting, right? Like that seems like a very high ranking for Shadeur, especially if you've been paying attention to a lot of the talk that's been going on about Shadeur Sanders. And, if you're not even the number one rated quarterback, which all signs point to that being Cam Ward, it is kind of weird that you'd be the fourth person listed as, if you wanted to make a bet on Shadeur to be the top pick. So we'll start there. We'll start at the top here because the reality of what's going on in the NFL draft ranking so far is the fact that when you look at Cam Ward and Abdul Carter, it's been going really back and forth. And when you think about who is drafting at the top of the draft and the Tennessee Titans, that's a team that kind of just needs a little bit of everything. So are you going to go with the edge rusher? Or are you going to go with the quarterback? And history has told us recently that most likely teams that need a quarterback, that's what you're going to take. So then the next question comes down to Cam Ward. And is Cam Ward the kind of QB that you can have to lead your team to the future, to respectability, to the playoffs, to contention? And because if you're the Tennessee Titans, that's what you're looking for at this moment, right? At this moment, you are looking for, can we just get on the board here with someone who can bring some stability to an organization that hasn't really had that at the quarterback position? But on the flip side, you got Abdul Carter, who a lot of draft boards have as the top prospect in the draft. We know that if you remove quarterback out of the positioning, edge rusher is probably up there as well as being one of the more important positions of need when you're trying to turn around a team. even if you phrase it as being just one of the more important parts of a team. And if I look at this here, right, we go to espin.com here. We look at some pre-draft analysis on Abdul Carter. It says Carter is an explosive speed rusher with a quick get off and the lower body flexibility to bend inside at the top of his rush. He's not a polished technician, but his hands are active. He has the length to get into the frame of the blocker, and he changes directions well. He gets to depth, reads a quarterback, and gets his hands in passing windows, dropping into coverage. Carter is a rangy run defender with good closing speed. So here comes the interesting part, right? You have to there's two sides to this if you're the Tennessee Titans. Because to me, if you're the Tennessee Titans and you don't take Cam Ward, then you have to have another plan for what you're going to do at quarterback. And I don't know what with the available options, I don't know how that's looking. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you really want to go out there and get Aaron Rodgers and see how that plays out? Do you really want to go out there and, pay Sam Darnold a lot of money? Like, there's a lot of different options out there, but I feel like with a young team, you might have to understand, hey, it might be better to just go and get a young quarterback and see if you can develop them. That might be the move there. So I kind of understand, and it's kind of tough, but I feel like we've bounced back and forth between the last couple of weeks in terms of Cam Ward, in terms of who's going to go number one between Cam Ward or Abdul Carter. Or the other part is, if you are the Tennessee Titans, and let's say you really like Abdul Carter, but you start putting out, hey, we might take Cam Ward here, and you know that there are teams in the draft rankings that are sweating getting a quarterback right now, like in desperate need of getting a quarterback right now. Do you kind of just float out there, let the thought process be, hey, well, maybe we will take Cam Ward. Let that sprinkle out there, and maybe you can make a trade. You can get a massive haul. If you're the Tennessee Titans and you find that, hey, here's the Cleveland Browns, they're in need of a quarterback. The New York Giants, they're in need of a quarterback. You look at those teams, even if you look down to 6, and the Raiders also in need of a quarterback. If you look at those teams and they really like Cam Ward and they really want Cam Ward, you could find yourself in a great position where you're able to make a trade down, still get your guy. And I mean, depending on where you want to get to, right? Like, let's say Cleveland. Cleveland is really where you want to isolate here, I think. And if Cleveland really likes Cam Ward, you make the trade, you flip the spot, you get your guy in Abdul Carter anyways, and you get whatever other assets you're able to pull off. We've seen that happen time and time again in other scenarios here with the top pick. And if you're Tennessee, maybe that's the move you try to make if you're not sold on Cam Ward. But with where the odds are right now, it's looking like they might be sold on Cam Ward. So, let's do the same thing here. Let's check what the scouts here are saying. The pre-draft analysis here is on Cam Ward. And this, again, from Espin says, Ward transferred to Miami after playing at Washington State and Incarnate Ward for 4 seasons. He's put up impressive numbers and performances at each stop, but he played at his best with the Hurricanes. Ward has shown great poise in the pocket in critical game situations. His footwork and decision-making have also improved. He is an escape artist with the foot speed and the core strength to extend plays. He keeps his eyes downfield as he moves up and into the pocket. Ward makes off-platform throws and excels at throwing over the middle to his right while moving to his left. He adjusts his release point in the face of pressure. He drives the ball in the tight windows and downfield. So, again, you're looking at Cam Ward. Cam Ward might be super interesting pick there for you, right? If you are looking for a quarterback. But there is also another quarterback that you might be interested in taking, which we'll talk about in a sec. Hey, are you ready to win real money? Check out Pick 6 from DraftKings. When it comes to basketball payouts, DraftKings Pick 6 dunks on its rivals. including prize picks. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat, like points, rebounds, 3-pointers, and more. Pick Six is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick Six and cash in your basketball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick Six credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick Six app now and use code CLUTCH. That's code CLUTCH for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick Six credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick Six credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos. So as mentioned, there's another quarterback obviously to be talked about, and it's not like you can forget the name because Shadeur Sanders has been talked about constantly for the last, 3 years at least in college football. It's been a huge discussion about Shadeur Sanders and the hype behind Shadeur Sanders. Is it more about his dad? Is it more about him being actual skill set of being a top line NFL quarterback? And I mean, for a while this season, there's talk, is he the number one QB slated, right? And even though Cam Ward has taken the reins of that spot, it's been an interesting development, I'll phrase it, as seeing what Shadeur Sanders has been able to, what his draft stock looks like now. Because I feel like in the beginning, it seemed like he was up there. He could be one of the top picks in the draft. He could be top 10 for sure. Maybe even if you look at the Raiders at 6, where they locked in at getting Shadeur Sanders. I feel like as his draft process has gone along, he's kind of fallen down the rankings here. Like even as I look at this draft board here, they have him as the 34th ranked prospect here. 34th. And that's interesting. You're the number 2 quarterback, but they have you as going in the second round. Now, those two things don't necessarily mean the same, right? Like you could be the number 2 ranked prospect in your position. You could be the 34th ranked prospect overall on a draft board. But the reality is what it really comes down to is a need of certain teams. So when you look at the draft board and you see Tennessee, they need a QB. The Browns, the Giants, that's the top 3. You could argue they all need a QB, right? New England at 4, they're pretty set. At 5, you got the Jags, they're pretty set. At 6, as mentioned, you got the Raiders, and, that's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. And the trend over the last few years is what we've seen is that teams will just draft said quarterback, even if that quarterback might not be your traditional first round talent, right? They just find a guy that they like and they do the job and go out and get that guy, right? So let's think about it like this, right? Even if we look at someone who might not have been, at the top of a lot of people's draft boards, what ended up happening anyways is you get isolated, someone finds you and they think you're going to be good and they just make that leap, right? So if we think about what happened to someone like Bo Nix was someone who people could argue about forever and ever and ever about Bo Nix. What's he going to be in the NFL? He had a very up and down career in college, right? And what was that going to translate into in the NFL? He wasn't rated that high as a quarterback in terms of would he go, in the first round. Most people didn't have him projected that high at all. But what happens? Sean Payton, he comes in, he wants to get a new young quarterback. He meets with Bo Nix. He loves him, Boom. Bo Nix ends up being the 12th overall pick in the draft. If you would have told people Bo Nix was going 12th, a lot of people wouldn't have believed that. So I bring all that up as we talk about Shadeur Sanders, and just to say this could be another scenario where you have so many teams in need of a quarterback. Like, even if we keep going right down this list, the Jets, they're at 7. They need a quarterback. You know, the Saints, you could argue they need a quarterback, right? The Niners, who knows what position they could be in. You know, I'm just bringing them up because that's my squad, and I'm very iffy on this whole Brock Purdy thing, how that will play out. But the point remains, right? You keep going down that list, even in the first round, right? Like the Colts, they got Anthony Richardson, but are they set there? You know, there's just so many different things that could happen here. So with at least what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams in the top 10 that could need a quarterback, that's you could see a team if you meet with Shadeur Sanders, even though a lot of the draft people, which again, we got to take that with a grain of salt, you know, you trust in what the people do, but you know, that's not the be all and end all when it comes to rating draft prospects. At the same time, if you meet with Shadeur Sanders, you like what you see, you meet with him, you have a great interview with him, it could be another scenario where, despite the fact people are trying to talk you out of Shadeur Sanders as we get closer to the draft, and you're hearing a lot of weird things about, you know, people don't understand still in 2025 how to understand, how to, what's a word I'm looking for here? How to read between the lines of someone like Shadeur Sanders, right? Shadeur Sanders is uber confident, right? And that might turn some people off in a process in which, you know, the draft, the people making the picks kind of want you to come in a little humble, a little quiet, a little, you know, the man's dad is Dion. That's not really how this is going to work out, right? Because no matter what, in his mind, we gonna be all right. And I mean, to be honest, no matter what happens, they are gonna be all right. But you know what I'm saying here? It's just a different kind of thing. And even when you just compare the difference between the demeanor of Cam Ward and Shadeur Sanders in these, you know, the press conferences we're seeing at the combine, even, it's just a different ball game, right? So I'm super interested to see where Shadeur Sanders ends up going. Again, we're talking about the number 1 pick here, and the draft odds are at plus 1200. I don't think that's a good move there. If you are looking to pick, to make a bet on the number 1 overall pick, I don't think that's a move there to take Shadeur Sanders at plus 1200. But I am super interested to see where Shadeur ends up going. And, you know, I've been reading what the draft pre-draft analysis is here, and I'll read the one for Shadeur. It says Sanders is accurate with the quick release to pick defenses apart with short to intermediate passes. In 2023, he set Colorado school records for passing yards in a season with 3,230, completion percentage of 693, and a touchdown to interception ratio of 27-3, despite frequently poor pass protection. Sanders has handled the hype well and doesn't appear afraid of the big moment on the big stage. He throws to open receivers and leads them to yards after the catch. Shadeur Sanders spins the ball well and showed better timing and touch on his downfield throws in the 3-game evaluation of the 2023 tape than in the 4 of the 2022 Jackson State games watched. So again, that's just someone's opinion. Who knows what it's going to be? Shadeur at 6'2", 215, right? You're also going to deal with something a little different there too, right? Both guys listed as 6'2", Shadeur and Cam Ward. It just makes it super interesting, right? So those are the 2 guys right now in terms of the top 2 quarterbacks. And with so many teams looking at quarterbacks, that's what makes it interesting here. Again, right now we go through the odds. If you're looking to make a bet on the number 1 overall pick, I'll go through the top guys again. You got Cam Ward at minus 250, Abdul Carter at plus 190, Travis Hunter at plus 750, and Shadeur Sanders at plus 1200. If I'm making this pick here and I was trying to tell you on who to make a bet on, I would actually take the value on Abdul Carter here. just to see how it all plays out, because there's room that, Tennessee could make the trade and flip the pick maybe, but I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things there, and if you're looking at value, the Cam Ward at minus 250, you might be losing your value there if you want to lay down some money as we get closer to the actual NFL draft. But if we continue here, right, because there's someone else in the top 4 that we have to mention, just talking about the NFL draft and where things could go here, right? And that's Travis Hunter. There's a lot of talk about Travis Hunter and what he's going to be in the NFL, who's going to take him at the top of this draft, because let's be honest, he was electrifying last year in college football, obviously won the Heisman Trophy. He put in mega work. But how will that translate to the NFL? And also, there's a lot of talk about him going both ways in terms of playing offense and defense. Here's a pre-draft analysis on Hunter. Hunter is a fundamentally sound press corner who gets his hands on receivers, runs well, and gets his head turned in time to locate the ball. He reads the quarterback and tracks the ball in zone looks. Hunter has the instincts and ball skills of a playmaker. He also played wide receiver for Colorado, but projects best overall at corner. But if Hunter plays offense, he has the tools to quickly develop into a number 2 receiver. He gets off the line well, has an extra gear to stretch the field, and has a catching radius to win 50-50 balls downfield. He has a burst to threaten after the catch. So Travis Hunter also makes for an interesting pick there. And I really think that if you're the Tennessee Titans, Travis Hunter at plus 750, I know the odds are kind of juicy there, but I feel like there's so many other needs that, you're taking Travis Hunter, to me, to be a corner, to be the shutdown, lockdown corner. And I think that's kind of tough to take as the number 1 overall pick. It happens, but I just think it's tough to do that. Can he go play offense and defense and play receiver in the NFL? Yeah, but I wouldn't have him he wouldn't be ranked as one of the top receivers in college football. Do you know what I mean? Yes, he put up numbers. Yes, he did all right. But now as we project that to the NFL and what's he going to be able to do in the NFL, you might have some packages that you have set up for him. But overall, I don't think that Travis Hunter is going to be a guy that's out there playing every snap of the game on both offense and defense. So that's what makes it a little tough there. Overall, though, NFL draft is going to be super interesting. And of course, we got you covered here on the Clutch Picks Betting Podcast to keep you up to date with everything that's going on there. So make sure you stay tuned to that. That wraps up another episode of our look at some of the off-season futures. Don't forget to stick to the feed for the next deep dive of what we got in terms of trying to find some NFL value into the offseason. If you missed anything before, just hit like, follow, and subscribe. Scroll up a little and you'll be able to find all the other pods, because we got you covered, whether it's Apple, Spotify, or on YouTube. Clutch Picks Betting Podcast. My name is Sheldon Alexander. You can find me live on Instagram or the app formerly known as Twitter. You can find me on both places. On Instagram, it's at Sheldon Alexander. On Twitter, it's at Shell Alexander. I always say I used to pray for times like this to rhyme like this. This is the Clutch Picks Betting Podcast. As always, unpolished and unapologetic. Until next time, see ya.